Alright, here I am doing another video. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do this video about, but all my video styles are going to be always in rant form. So you can fact check me, think about my logic. You can do whatever you want to do and put it in the comments, and maybe I'll respond to you, maybe I won't. But I wanted to talk about today why my hair is always a mess in every single video I do. I can never have good hair. You know what? Whatever. Is the EPA a good or a bad thing? Like a majority of things in the world, and this is just all common sense at this point, everything starts or has the intention of starting as a good thing. But when things come into play that make changes to anything, there is always going to be a flip side, and there is always going to be a bad side. The EPA was, I think, started in the late 60s, early 70s. Whether it was President Nixon or not, I don't know off the top of my head. But the idea is that we need to save the planet, and we got to do that by making cars that are more efficient. Which, I mean, you could... Nowadays, it's more of just a marketing scam, to be honest, for the people who stand more towards the left side of the argument. But here's the thing. Modern day standards for cars, all this EPA nonsense is really just shitting all over cars. This is why I don't recommend people to buy brand new cars. Is the EPA the one who's completely at fault for the way that the cars are? Yes and no. I think a lot of the manufacturers, they're just doing their jobs. They're catering to their audience, and a lot of the people who are buying these cars, are just honestly very gullible and sucker-like, because it's like, oh, nice, shiny, pretty thing. But on the inside, you open the hood and you got all these EGR valves and, bypass tubes and all these fucking things everywhere. All this extra nonsense that, to be honest, adds weight, costs more, makes your car run worse. I mean, you're pumping oil back into your combustion chamber, and it's like you want perfect fuel atomization. Yeah, the whole reason on why we're creating the environment standards anyway just defeats the whole purpose. You're just pumping oil back into the intake. So what's the difference? I don't know. There isn't one. It's a gimmick is honestly what it is. Like, all the tree huggers is is global warming really destroying our planet? It's like, yeah, I mean, are we helping? I mean, yes and no. I don't know. How would we be able to calculate that? So far, it's like you see proof, and then you can also see proof that, counteracts that proof. So we're investing money into things that we aren't even sure of, which is fine from a creative standpoint. You can invest your money into things you don't know that are going to work, but why is the manufacturers and the government, I'm sure that the manufacturers don't want to do this, but why is the federal mandated rules of this the reason why we should do it? Like, honestly, I mean, it's not doing anything for anybody. It's just making things worse. Why is it us as the consumer? You're like, here's the thing. I'm getting a lot of comments, positive ones. I'm getting a lot of positive ones, but to touch on the very minor negative ones that I've been getting, where one of them was, cars are just cars, it's the future. You better accept it now, or, it is what it is. It's like, okay, here's the thing. That is such a stupid thing to say. Who are the manufacturers making the cars for? They're making the cars for us. So we get to decide with our wallets where our money goes and what we're spending on it. I mean, it's a pretty easy concept. It shouldn't have to be thought of any more than that. But what these people try and say is they try and say that, well, suck it nerd, people are going to do what they want anyway, and you got to just consume and not think about anything and just keep taking the shit that they keep giving us. Okay, like, you can do that. But in the reality, in the real world, people are going to rebel against things they don't want. And how they're going to do that is they're not going to be spending money, and they're not going to be buying new cars. They're not going to be feeding into the nonsense of the EPA. A lot of people don't even know what the EPA is. Only really in the automotive spectrum and the political spectrum do people know what the EPA is. But is it really doing anything for our cars? I mean, we can engineer engines on how to make a perfect burn. And a perfect burn is what is minimizing or maximizing the results for minimal hydrocarbons that are getting thrown into the air that are effectively, I guess, compared to the tree huggers and what they say, are destroying the environment. Okay, fine. You say they're destroying the environment. You have your cars. Let us have ours, okay? If you want this whole, movement around global warming, fine. Why do the manufacturers just have to cater to the lowest common denominator of people? Why? Why is it that in every form of thing that's going on right now in the world, I try and tend to focus on more of the automotive side because that's my thing. But why is it that we're catering to the people that don't fucking actually care? Like, they say they care, but they don't, because they don't know what they're talking about. You want to save the earth? We got factories cranking out these hybrid cars. You think we're making them with fucking sticks and homemade glue from tree resin? What do you think the cars come from? It's a gimmick. They're playing you to market off your campaign. They don't care about you. So you might as well just have your cars. The government should not mandate like these EV stuff, and shouldn't mandate, you want to drive a hybrid, go ahead. You want to drive an all-electric car, go ahead. You want to drive an all-gasoline car, go ahead. Why is it that all of the technology is being pushed towards that end of the spectrum? Why? This was a problem back in the day too. And not just the over-engineering part, but a big reason on what got me into this topic was I was really interested in Carroll Shelby, and I was interested in the whole Le Mans thing, and how who actually won the '66 Le Mans. Whatever, but that snowballed into me doing a deep dive on Carroll Shelby and why he did what he did. Well, back in the 60s, at least the late 50s, early 60s, it was easier to kind of make these deals happen with cars. There weren't really these restrictions like, did you need to be safe and whatever? Well, for their time, yeah, to an extent. But emissions, there wasn't really a problem. If you had a creative mentality about making a car, you can pretty much do it. There was endless amounts of avenues you could take. So what Carroll Shelby did is he had a British design and an American engine and married the two, and there you go, you have the Shelby Cobra. And what's happening is great people like him that were always thinking of making all these great deals and making all these great cars, were getting pushed out in the late 60s, in the 60s, 70s. We need to make a sports car, and a lot of things got political, and there were a lot of limitations and restrictions that got put in place to be like, well, you want to make a fast, fun, performance car, even just cars in general, but you have all these limitations and restrictions on us. We can do the best that we can, but it's not worth it anymore. It's not worth it. At least that's the sense I was getting from doing a deep dive on Carroll Shelby. He didn't see it being worth it. He felt like the environment was too political, and the way that the direction that the cars were going, he didn't really seem interested. So people like him backed out of it until around the 80s, and I think it was late 80s, early 90s, I don't know, when Chrysler asked him to do more things with cars, and you started seeing all the turbocharged 2-liter engines and every single, the Shelby Daytona Coupe. And stuff like that. And then again, the same thing happened. Things got political. Standards started changing. And he left again. And he said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore, until he started doing it for his own self again. Obviously, a lot of it probably had to do with more of the political end of it. But I do think some of the standards that were put in place on what he could and couldn't do also didn't help the fact. So he just threw his hands up and said, fuck it, I'm not doing it anyway. So how is that affecting us in our car how is that affecting us today and the cars that we drive today? Well, because it's the same thing, and it might not be Carroll Shelby, but these engineers who are making these cars. I got another comment that's saying, well, engineers are just people too. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Engineers are people just like us, and they're getting their arms twisted right now. A lot of them, at least the ones I see online, because I don't think it's for all of them. All of us in the automotive industry have our arms twisted right now. Mechanics, we're just lying and cheating and stealing. I mean, that's pretty much what a mechanic or a technician does. It's just you're a professional thief because you're being told by someone that this is what you have to do in order to make money, because you have to make money. I mean, it's just that's it at the end of the day. We're not here to, help anybody out. As shitty as that sounds, our intention is good, but unfortunately, at the end of the day, these companies and dealerships and shops have to make money. So they're going to do what they got to do to get you in and get you out as fast as possible and sell you things you don't need, because that's what you got to do. How does this affect engineers on how the car is made? Well, they probably want to be creative, and they probably want to make great cars, and they probably want to do their jobs properly, but they're being told, well, you need to make a car with all these limitations and all these limitations, and this is how our structure works, and they're pretty much telling them what they want and not letting the creative freedom of the engineers probably do what they want. I'm not an engineer. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but if you're an engineer, write it down in the comment, and if I'm completely wrong or off base, then let me know. You need to make a car that kind of functions and works all around, while still appeasing this side, while still appeasing this side, and this is the result that you get. The problem is that, I do think that certain limitations and certain restrictions do actually create and cause a lot of creativity to a certain amount. But too much restriction and too much limitation to where you're pretty much being told what you need to make is the end of the line, is where you have actually no control. You're just an engineer making blueprints for somebody else. You're not actually making the car. You're making the car based on what they want. So it creates this mentality of, this is just a big corporate machine vehicle. This isn't something that somebody thought of. A lot of people had their hands involved and their brains involved to make it the way it is. Obviously, it took a lot of work. But it took a lot of work to be being pushed, a message of these cars being pushed in the wrong direction. We're going in the wrong direction here. Our cars are going in the wrong direction. Personally, just to get a little bit off topic, I'm not a fan of how a lot of modern cars look. You look at cars from every single generation before ours, and modern cars, they all have this, every single car is trying to do this refined look. Things that aren't meant to be clean are clean. People are buying trucks as luxury items. The whole idea of a truck is that it was used to be for the working man. A truck was never meant to be for a sign of status. Now it's completely different. People are buying cars for status and status only. A lot of people aren't buying cars as just, I want to say people are using cars as utensils, as they are, from point A to point B. But a lot of people, don't get me wrong, You want to look good from going from point A to point B, which is completely reasonable, which also in turns opens up a market for the manufacturer to accommodate you by building people like you cars. All well and good, not with these regulations, not with these standards that are being put on us. It's just making things harder unnecessarily. For what? To appease people politically? Who fucking cares? Make the car you want to make, okay? Like we got a lot of the cars, it's almost like, I always bring up Dodge again because, Dodge was kind of doing what they wanted to do, it seemed like, with the Hellcat. We got the Hellcat and the Demon, and it was like the last hurrah, and now we're waving our flags and we're going all electric. It's no one's going to buy the new Charger. There's a reason why Ford, has hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but I'm sure thousands of EVs sitting on their lot with no one buying them. Who looks at Ford and goes, I'm going to buy an electric car from them? No, it's not an electric. Nobody's going to care. Nobody wants to buy an electric Ford. Like, Tesla already has that curb in the market. Like, and everyone else is too late. It's just true. Who else, like, what else is there to offer? What other car companies? Like, Toyota's getting into it, the all-electric thing. I feel like Toyota actually has a better shot at it. Even though Toyota did say that they didn't want to be a part of that market, I guess they changed their mind now. They must see some type of statistic or analytic that obviously I can't see that makes them want to make that decision, because they must see that there's money involved. They must. I think a lot of what's going on is, I think that the media is creating this like almost form of propaganda from normal consumers of like, oh, this is what I want, because a lot of people are looking at it and saying, this is what I want. And I think that's giving false statistics almost to these manufacturers, because I think what we're creating is this like little tiny group of people that want these cars but are having the loudest voices because of media. So I think what's happening is it's like, okay, if you want an electric car, you buy a Tesla. But I think everybody thinks that, oh, Teslas are hot because it's a meme car that's on my phone and everybody sees it all the time. And there's Teslas here, Teslas there. Every car manufacturer is like, we gotta build one, we gotta make one. And then they make them, and then they're bankrupt, and they're like, what happened? It's like, no, okay, when you go buy a Ford, what do you think of? You think of Ford trucks. You buy Ford trucks. And that's really it. Nobody goes to Ford and goes, some people do, but a majority of people don't. A lot of people who use Fords are, police and government contracts for police vehicles and, utility vehicles, whatever. A lot of them used for fleet cars. Like if you are buying Focuses and Edges and Escapes, a lot of fleet trucks. Nobody is waking up and going, my dream car is a 2022 Ford Fusion SE. Like, nobody's saying that. I don't think a single person on the planet has actually said that. And if you are, fine, you can love the car. There's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that a lot of the market is catering to those individual opinions of cars. Whereas when I try and state my opinion, I'm trying to speak on the behalf of the people that are working on the cars, that are trying to, mechanics, people that I talk to on a daily basis, customers' point of view. And this is where it gets difficult for a lot of people to understand, a lot of old people. A lot of the old people I talk to have the same mentality that I do. A lot of the kids that I talk to do not. Kids are very gullible from just a maturity standpoint, and it's just that's just the truth. So it's like taking candy from a baby. You're gonna put something nice, shiny in front of a kid, and they're gonna want to buy it because that's just what kids do, right? That's just what kids do. The only problem is that since a lot of kids nowadays can't afford cars on their own, mommy and daddy are going to buy them a car, and they're buying them the shiny thing because people nowadays I mean, let's face it, people nowadays don't give a fuck about, just giving their kids something reliable to drive. They have to make their kid look like they're the cat's ass and they're just spoiled little brats. So a lot of these kids are being funded money to buy all these nice shiny things, which supports the market of illegitimate, throwaway cars. That's not the only aspect. That's one of them. Another one is a lot of people who do have money to just throw at a car. Like, I've seen people who come in with, older Tacomas or Camrys or Corollas. That there's nothing wrong with them. And a lot of them are just misinformed, because I'll actually sometimes convince people out of buying a new car. An older gentleman, was brought in an older Tacoma, or it was a Camry or whatever, and he's like, I'm looking at new RAV4s, and he's looking at the sticker value, and his eyes are popping out of his head, and I'm like, I'm going to be honest. It's not worth it nowadays, sir. It's really not. And after the thought process, the critical thinking aspect came in, it was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Yeah, my car works perfectly fine. I'm going to keep it that way. That's me, though. The people who are selling these cars because they need jobs, like car salesmen, used car salesmen, or new car salesmen, are like, hey, sir, you look really good in that car today. How about you take it for a test drive, and, we start signing the paperwork right now, and we get this show on the road, right? Am I right? Huh? Wink. And then now they're like 40 grand deep, and for a base model RAV4, with all these luxury packages, with stock wheels, but all these electronics on the inside and all this touch screen shit, and it's going to be the last car until they die. But guess what's going to happen? The car is just going to get recycled, and they're going to create more garbage over the next 20 to 30 years, and that's just going to be the way it is. Am I getting off topic? Am I supposed to be talking about the EPA? I don't even know anymore, because it just turned into a rant, which is how all of my videos are going to be. It's just ranting. That's all it's ever going to be, is just a rant. I can go look at the statistics all day long. People are going to fact check whatever the fuck they want all day long. Go ahead, post your facts down in the comment. I don't care. Just do whatever you want. Another example of kids, who are, one of my coworkers wants to buy a brand new Toyota Corolla, which is all well and good. I wish him the best. But he already, has a very old car, which is a Volkswagen, so it's not really the best old car you can buy, because I'm surprised it even made it to this point, because we all know how Volkswagens are. But go get yourself a 10-year-old or 15-year-old Toyota. It will last probably the same amount of time, if not longer, than the newer one would. It's not worth it. And his argument was, well, I saved a lot of money for the longest time, and I just want something from being a new owner, and have that last the rest of my life. Well, the issue is that it won't. The issue is you're going to be spending a lot more money in the long run. And the issue is that the technology used for these emission standards is just going to get even more critical at this rate. And we're all going to be screwed. And I tried my hardest to convince him out of it. And he's like, nope, I want to do it. I'm a kid and I got money in my pocket and I'm going to do it. And that mentality right there, it's not his fault. He worked hard. He wants something new. It's a bad financial investment for themselves. These cars are milking people dry. They don't realize it. It's like the 2008 housing crisis. Everyone's getting approved for a loan to buy a new car. And nobody can fucking afford it. Nobody can fucking afford it. If you want to make a new car for young people, you need to take into consideration what teenagers are making, or what early 20-year-olds are making. They're probably making around the tops, and a lot of older people are probably making this too, but let's just say you're making minimum wage, and the federal minimum wage is like, isn't it like $8 or something? I don't know. But the minimum wage state to statewide is usually around like upwards of $14 to like $20. So let's say in this area, and where I'm from right now, or I'm not where I'm from, but where I'm in right now is Connecticut, is like $17 and change or whatever. So in this area, you need to make an average of like, all the existing areas and market the car towards that existing area. So you're working 40 hours and you're making 17 an hour, you're making like 600 and something dollars. and you have to afford a car. So a usual car payment should be around $200 to $300 max. Good luck, because on top of insurance, which you're a kid, which means you're going to be paying more, is going to probably be the same amount of costing. So it's going to be like $600, and good luck finding that. You're not going to anywhere. So these and by the time the cars have such a high sticker value of MSRP, it's going to take you your entire life to pay it off. So it doesn't change anything. So by the time you pay it off, you already are going to need to buy another car anyway. And because of these EPA, I know I'm getting off track. I'm trying to weave it back into the EPA thing. Because of the EPA, that these cars have all these, emissions laws and stuff put on them, and the amount of repairs you're going to need to do to fix it, you're losing money. You're not making money. You're putting yourself in a financial hole. People aren't thinking this through, and the manufacturers don't care because they're just trying to line their pockets, or they have their arms twisted by the government, which is probably a combination of both. We need to sell a car and we need to please the government. So this is what we do. We have to make gullible cars for gullible people. Oh boy, I'm really ranting this time. Boy, where am I at? Once I get going and the gears start turning, I just can't stop. It's like a freaking train with no brakes. What was I saying? Oh, a 2015, I think that's my son. He's supposed to be taking a nap. I'm trying to do this video while he's sleeping. 2015 Honda Fit has a catalytic converter code. A lot of them do. You change the O2 sensor, you change the catalytic converter, the code is still there. You've paid thousands of dollars, especially for a catalytic converter. It's like $1,500 without labor for the catalytic converter. So these emissions laws pretty much made that car useless. The check engine light was at my girlfriend's shop. The check engine light was on. They changed the O2 sensor. They changed the catalytic converter, and the check engine light is still on for our P0420 catalytic converter. It could be an electrical issue. It could be a short somewhere in the harness. Here's my mentality. The car runs and drives. The catalytic converter is still there. The O2 sensors are reading right, and they're adjusting the engine properly, open loop, closed loop. They're doing their job. Everything's working properly, but the check engine light's still on. So now you can't get it passed to get an emission sticker in an emission state because of these stupid laws. So you're telling me that 40 minutes down the road, their emissions don't matter as much as they do here? Because the law is 40 minutes that way. Say that my check engine light's perfectly okay. But you're telling me 40 minutes in this direction that my check engine light is going to hurt the environment? Because my car says it's not running properly. And because my car says it's not running properly, now I have to pay thousands of dollars to try and fix the problem. And if I don't, I need to play this game of fuckball with the DMV to try and get my car passed under some type of lemon law. And I have to get to work. I have to bring my kids to school. I have to bring my kids to daycare. I have to go shopping. I gotta go to a family thing. I gotta drive and use my car, and now I can't because of the government. If the car is working properly and it has a check engine light, us as technicians should just be able to let it go and pass it, put a sticker on it, and let people go on their fucking merry way because it doesn't matter. But instead, we have to diag it and spend thousands of dollars fixing problems that don't matter. We're chasing things that don't matter. A lot of people are like, well, my check engine light's on. If we sat down with them and talked to them and explained on why it wouldn't be an issue, then it wouldn't, and they'd be like, okay, no problem. Thanks for saving me thousands of dollars. But a lot of them don't, because a lot of them don't know what they're looking at. A lot of them don't know what they're looking at. And it's sad that we can't take the time to sit down with people to explain to them what's going on, because we need to make money. Because that's what the laws say. The EPA is not here to protect the world. It's a scam, and it's a gimmick, and it's helping fuel the inflation of cars. It's helping create parts that are unnecessary, that nobody needs. It's not helping anybody. The EPA isn't helping anybody. You want to say it's helping the environment? Give the proof. Because every single time I see some new flat earther give proof on the EPA actually helping the environment, it always gets debunked and it always doesn't end up being true. Because how are we able to measure the amount of hydrocarbons that are in our atmosphere that are melting the fucking polar caps? Okay, well, we're trying to save the polar bears. Well, we can't save the fucking polar bears if all of our money is being taken out of being funded for science on how we can help the polar bears in their home, okay? Save the fucking turtles. Give me my fucking straw at the Dunkin' Donuts fucking drive-thru, because what do you think they made the fucking building with? You think they made the building with paper straws? They had to cut down so many goddamn trees. There's no solution to this. Our infrastructure is built off of the industrial age of materials, and we're trying to save the earth by making batteries, by drilling big ass holes inside the fucking ground. Like, no one's saving anybody. You're not saving the earth by making electric cars. It's a sales gimmick and everyone's being scammed by it. The EPA isn't here to help us, okay? They're not. It's more government standards to shut the tree huggers up. That's all it was meant to do. But it's anti-consumer friendly. And because it's anti-consumer friendly, our overindulgence of being able to buy vehicles, is just being so diluted right now with all these garbage cars. And there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing. We just have to watch. And almost like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where everything's about balance, you got to just wait for the tides of good and evil to turn. And you just have to wait it out, and hopefully this war against the Fire Nation will end, and we'll be able to have our fucking cars back that actually work properly, and you don't need to worry about stupid EGR valves, which it's never going to happen, because the direction of the automotive industry, everybody's getting out of it. Mechanics aren't staying. Engineers aren't staying. Manufacturers are losing money because no one's buying them. Some people are buying them, which is like giving milk to the manufacturers, out of a nipple, and keeping them afloat. But it's not. No one's making any kind of, economic wonder where we're just making normal cars again. Everything's getting complicated. Touchscreen, everything. Apple CarPlay, coolers, heated fucking mirrors in your windows. All this shit to go wrong, and when it does, you can't get your car passed by an emissions standard. 2016 Ford Edge had a transmission circuit code for something that had to do with the torque converter, pressure sensor, something. I don't know, something. The car ran and drove fine. It had 65,000 miles on it. Guy traded it in for a Toyota because of it. He was going to spend thousands of dollars taking the transmission out of a car that has 60,000 miles on it, putting new torque converter in it, changing all the sensors, valve body, whatever, thousands of dollars. He said, fuck that, I'm trading it in. The car's junk. It went to auction. It's a waste. And it's just going to be stripped for parts and broken down into measly pieces of scrap metal to build more garbage. You can't, on a 1999 Honda Accord, you can fucking build one with sticks and Legos and glue, and it'll work, and you can drive it because it doesn't have to pass for emission standards, I think, depending on where you live. Actually, I think it's 25 years, so a 1996 or whatever, 97, I don't even know where we're at now. What year is it? You can throw it together, it'll work, and it'll get you from point A to point B. Yeah, it might not have heated seats. Yeah, you don't want to know how to get a heated seat? Plug in a heat mat in your cigarette lighter and shove it inside your seat pad, inside your tan cloth interior, and then there you go. There's your heated seat, and it's got a cool little switch on it too. But no, it has to be seamless. Everything has to look good and have this modern, futuristic look. Look at the Jetsons. They were driving around rocket cars in outer space that looked like they were from the 1950s and 60s with jets on them, because that was the time and the era. Nowadays, this is what we think modern is. This is what we think the future is. Everything looks so simplistic and design, and we're trying to make garbage look good to appease to audiences and consumers. It's just if they were really selling it for what it was, they'd say that you're going to be spending thousands of dollars and it's going to cost you way too much, but of course not, because it's bad for business. EPA laws need to be taken and gotten rid of. Look at the rest of the world, and again, this is a lot of examples that are being thrown into proportion when you look at other countries of the world. You think China or Japan or Korea, or because they do Hyundai, or even Volvo for that matter, Sweden, or is it Volvo Swedish? I don't know. England, do you think they care about the emissions laws as much as we do? No, they don't. Their cars, while they're not perfect, are going down a different route than we are. Their manufacturing process, they don't care. They're not going to indulge in these American ideals. They're just going to make cars, okay? That's just what they do. Us, no. We got to fucking cripple ourselves as a country to appease people who are fucking retards because they're too busy watching TV shows about how we're hurting the planet, and they think that's God's word, and if they don't even believe in God, they believe in other things like fucking Satan was a good guy and whatever, so just stop listening to idiots. These people are dumb. They're idiots. They think, the whole world revolves around them and their politics, and then they're wondering why we're all in this shit in every single industry right now. The EPA needs to be gotten rid of. The emissions laws, get rid of them. Do cars need to be safe? They should be, to an extent, but at the end of the day, why do we have tire pressure sensors, right? We have tire pressure sensors because I had this argument with my girlfriend. We were debating back and forth on whether we thought tire pressure sensors were good or not. Here's the thing. In my world, I see a flat tire. I every single time, majority of the time, I look at my vehicle. Are my tires full air? Yep, let's go. People don't bother to check. People don't bother to check because it takes up too much time, and it's just to me, it's negligence. People don't care enough. They're not taught to care. No parents are teaching them to care. The government's not teaching them to care. The manufacturers aren't teaching them to care because they're giving them everything. They're giving them all the tools. We got AAA. It's hard to get stuck in a modern day times. No one's going to come to you on the side of the road because we're assuming you have a cell phone and you're connected to society. And it's great. It means you get to get help really fast and at a fast rate. But the problem is it's making people dumb. It's not making people, have to think about, what it is they're driving or what it is they're doing. They're just getting comfortable with the technology they're giving, and it's making people fucking retarded because it's making them have a lack of accountability. You get a flat tire, your TPMS lights on, losing air, and then that's it. And then, but what they don't realize is now you're paying, the TPMS sensor stops working now. It's upwards of over $100 a sensor, and who the hell wants to spend hundreds of dollars on TPMS sensors to check to see if your tire pressure is full when you can just look with your eyeballs to see if you got air in your tires? Well, it tells you if they're 25 PSI or 38 PSI, and the tire looks a little low, but I don't know. Go get a fucking pump from Lowe's, Home Depot, and check your tire pressure. Check your tires. Just do your job, because we wouldn't have had to program software into our cars to check to see if our tires were full of air. We wouldn't have had to check. We wouldn't have had to. Cars don't even come with spares nowadays. Spare tires. No cars come with spare tires anymore. It's crazy. It's like people just need to do their own due diligence to check things on their own, because people's negligence is what the cars are catering to right now. It's catering to the tree huggers for the EPA. It's catering to the people who are just don't do their due diligence, who just act like idiots, like cars are just utensils, and don't bother to check them to make sure that the quality of them is still going to just don't take care of them in a sense. And the problem is that the manufacturers are catering to idiots who, again, follow with this practice of not doing their maintenance and stuff like that and checking to see if their car is okay, because what's happening is on the manufacturer's end, they have to fix the problems that people are creating, which is people aren't checking their tires. So what do? We have to put TPMS sensors in it. It was a big lawsuit, I think, with Ford back in the early 2000s, and now a lot of modern cars all of them are standard with tire pressure sensors, which is great. You know, it would be even greater if we got rid of the entire system completely and we were able to take $500 off the top sticker value of MSRP, but we can't. And now we have to pay for labor to get it fixed, and we're implementing all these things. The more things, it's basic science. The more things you implement, this is our philosophy, the more things you implement, the more things have a possibility to go wrong. Not that they will, but the more things that are being put in front of you, the more possible things to go wrong. You can take any kind of old car, beat the crap out of it going off-roading. If I hop in my Ford Ranger right now and go dip it in a puddle, it'll probably brick the truck, all the water will get in the ECU, it'll stop running, and the transfer case will crack in half just for the fuck of it. Because these modern cars are made like glass. And because they're made like glass and our standards of emissions are so, or the EPA standards that we have are so high, they're junk. They're garbage. They're $60,000 utensils, okay? So to wrap this up, I don't even know if I fucking talked about the EPA the entire time, or how this was linked to anything other than just the rantings that go on in my head. But is the EPA a good or a bad thing? I think the intention was good. I think it was put out fucking terribly because it's making ordinary people pay for idiots. That's it.